Mataji, you're coming to class. I'm very happy. Sit in a comfortable chair. Okay.
But you've got TV land out there.
Huh?
You have TV land.
Yes. I have what?
TV land.
Oh, TV land, yes. We want to welcome our viewers, hearers on the internet. So today is 5:15, right? ठीक है, चलेगा. Is that Mark? Oh, Mark has come. Yes, play. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballava Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Ballava Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballava Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad, Paramhansa Parivakatara Sarasi Simad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad, Paramhansa Parivakatara Sarasi Simad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Thakur Bhakti Vinod Ki Jai. Sri Guru Parampara Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad-Gita Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dharma Ki Jai, Kartik Mas Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, Go Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together please. Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bevacha Padidanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, translation and commentary Srila Prabhupada. Today's verse from chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, is number 15. Please repeat. Nādatte kasyacit pāpam na caiva sukṛtaṁ vibhuḥ ajñānenāvṛtaṁ jñānam tena muhyanti jnānavat nādatte kasyacit pāpam na caivam sukṛtam vibhu ajñānenāvṛtaṁ jñānam tena muhyanti jnānavat nādatte kasyacit pāpam na caiva sukṛtam vibhu ajñānenāvṛtaṁ jñānam tena muhyanti jnānavat. Okay, jantavaḥ.
Tena muhyanti jantavaḥ. Nādatte kasyacit pāpam. Caiva sukṛtam vibhu. Ajñānenāvṛtaṁ jñānam. Tena muhyanti jantavaḥ. Nādatte kasyacit tena muhyanti jantavaḥ.
nādatte gacchati pāpaṁ
Nādatte kasyacit pāpaṁ. caiva sukṛtaṁ vibhuḥ. ajñānenāvṛtaṁ jñānam. tena muhyanti jantavaḥ.
Yes, good. Okay, fine. So, please repeat word for word. Na, never. Ādatte, accepts. Kasyacit, anyone's. Pāpam, sin. Na, nor. Cha, also. Caiva, certainly. Sukṛtaṁ, pious activities. Vibhu, the Supreme Lord. Ajñānena, by ignorance. āvṛtam, covered. Jñānam, knowledge. Tena, by that. Muhyanti, are bewildered. Jñānavaḥ, the living entities. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Please repeat. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Purport, Srila Prabhupada. The Sanskrit word vibhu means the Supreme Lord, who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself. Okay. Chapter 5, verse 15, purport. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities, nor does he create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity, by superior nature full of knowledge, However, nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is vibhu, or omniscient, but the living entity is atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered, in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires, but the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma, or the super soul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not therefore omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute, independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare, Esha uhyeva sadhu karma karyati tam yam ebhyo lokebhya unishyate esha u eva sadhu karma karyati yam adho ninishyate. The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in impious activities so that he may go to hell. Kauṣītakī Upaniṣad 3.8. Agyo gyato anishto yam atma sukam dukam yoho Ishvara parito gaschet swagam vyas āvṛtam evacha. The living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell, as a cloud is driven by the air. Although the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment, consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. The Vedanta Sutra 2.134 also confirms this. Vaisamya naigrene ye na sapekshat vat tatahi dashyati. The Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears to do so. Mukam karochi vachalam pangam laite girim yad kripa tamaham bande Shri Guru dinatarinam. Nādatte kasyacit pāpam na caiva sukṛtaṁ vibhu ajñānenāvṛtaṁ jñānam tena muhyanti jnanavat. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's living or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Jai. Mukum karochi vachalam pangam laite girim yakripa tamaham vande Shri Guru dinatarinam. So, Krishna is giving Arjuna knowledge of the Maya Shakti here. Right? Or earlier in the Gita, Krishna said, oh, you're giving a very good plan that we should act in accordance with the Supreme Lord, but why do people act sinfully? And then Krishna said, Kama esha, Krodha esha, right? We're lusty to enjoy the material energy, so therefore we become entangled in it. We desire the material energy. It's as simple as that. So if we desire the material energy, Krishna guides us to the fulfillment of the particular desire. If you want to be a tiger or a meat eater or a swimmer or a surfer or a hang glider, right? People go hang gliding, they want to be a bird. Okay, in your next life you can be a bird. Oh, you want to be a bank robber? I'll guide you in that way. Oh, you want to do good to people? I'll guide you in that way. I'll guide you in this way. I'll guide you however you want. So the Supreme Lord is showing his attitude of service. We are constitutionally servants. Why? We pick up this in our constitution. We are angsa because the Supreme Lord himself is servant. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko yoda dadati kaman. There are many, many, many eternal living entities, but there's one Supreme. There are many, many unlimitedly conscious living beings in number, but there's one who is supremely conscious. Eko, that one is fulfilling all the desires of all the living entities. Everything is resting upon him. We discussed this in length last week, how the if you remember the verses, the self-realized soul knows that even though he's eating, sleeping, evacuating, walking, conversing, he knows that I am aloof from this because I'm spirit soul. Actually, I have nothing to do with the material body. That is the self-realized soul's perspective. He knows I'm not the body. He is in samadhi. His concentration is on the Supreme. He has discovered Rajavidya Rajaguyam, the greatest secret, that beyond this material energy there is the spiritual world. And at the center of that spiritual world is the Supreme Lord. That is the basis of all yoga. That is the basis of all knowledge. That is the basis of all success in knowledge. Krishna, later on, in the 7th chapter, will say something very interesting to Krishna on this basis. We discussed last week, if you remember, the self-realized soul. He's detached from the body. But not only that, he knows that the body is working by the workings of the Supreme Lord. He has empowered the demigods to work the functions of the body, and he is simply Ishvara Sava Bhutanam Hridesa. He is simply sitting within the material body. But the material illusion is that I am the doer, kartaham iti manyate. So this is a very interesting point to contemplate. We discussed it last week, but we should contemplate these points that Krishna brings up to Arjuna. Yes, I am aloof from the body, but I am thinking I'm the body, I'm thinking I'm the doer. Therefore I'm in illusion. So what is the solution? I should concentrate on realization of that which is beyond the body, the demigods, the material energy. And Krishna, in the 7th chapter, says this, jñānam te ham sa vijñānam. I shall now declare unto you, Arjuna, in full, this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. That's very extraordinary, is it not? That's one sloka, and Krishna is saying, I'll declare this knowledge, numinous and phenomenal, and once you know this, there's nothing more to be known. So what does numinous mean? It means the spiritual world. Phenomenal is referring to the material world. And when I saw this verse a couple of weeks ago, I did a search in the Veda base, and Prabhupada often attaches phenomenal to material. This word numinous is only one time in the Veda base, but we call it the phenomenal world. Like in this material world, there is the phenomena. There is lightning, there is flooding, there is heat, there is cold, there is winter, there is wind, there are the seas, there are the tides. This material world is full of phenomena, happenings. And we take this as everything. The materialist takes it and analyzes it. If I understand how the phenomena is working, then I will understand this material world and I'll be better positioned to enjoy and control. But Krishna is saying here, this knowledge, full knowledge, there is another sphere of knowledge which is called numinous. Numinous means from noun, or the original noun, the original person. You could think of it as Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is the source of energy, and Prakriti is the energy. So the sun and the sunlight, Krishna and Radha, Sita, Ram. the source of energy, Shaktimam, and the energy itself. So the absolute truth is two in aspect, though it is one, and that is energy and the source of energy. Just like when we say the sun is out today, we mean the sun and the sunlight. So this knowledge that Krishna is the source of all energy, this is, if we understand this, there's nothing more to be known. Like I said earlier, the materialist thinks, oh, if I understand how the material world works, I'll understand everything eventually. But Krishna is saying, no, there is a different sphere, a different area of knowledge that is beyond the mathematics and physical and chemical and biological laws of this material world. Now the materialist will think, oh yes, there are things I don't understand, but eventually I will. But Krishna is explaining, and the yogis and the sages explain very strictly, no, that this Supreme Lord, who is numinous, who is the nominal, who is the source of the phenomena, in this case, Krishna is saying the phenomena of the spiritual world and the phenomena of the material world, I am the source of that. I am the Purusha. I am the divine source, Janmadhyasya. Bhagavad-Gita starts with that. Vedanta Sutra starts. Vedanta, Janmadhyasya. What is the absolute? That which from whom everything has emanated. So, yes, Krishna explains in the Gita that knowledge of him is both scientific and mystical. So we discussed this last week, if you remember, that how in this material world, yes, you can take the atoms and molecules apart, you can measure gravity, and you can measure the power of the sun, and so on and so forth. And those laws, you can rely on them being available tomorrow. Everything is working in a scientific way. But the numinous, Krishna is going to reveal to Arjuna, because this chapter is knowledge of the absolute, means the param tattva. This is an important point to grasp, that Krishna is beyond the laws, chemical, physical, biological, logical, whatever, that control this material sphere. This material sphere, yes, it is under the domination, the control of the physical laws, so on and so forth, medical laws. We are all under the government. And this is the restricted environment. But now in today's verse, Krishna says that if you can get out of this restricted environment, then you will no longer be bewildered by this lack of knowledge. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Now this is very interesting, is it not? What does this mean? It means that I am, and all living entities, no matter how they're covered because of their karma, they have real knowledge which covers their real knowledge. Now we know, right, we are Angsa of Krishna. Krishna is Sat Chit Ananda. So Chit means the ability to understand, right? Because we're not only Sat, existing, but we're conscious. This is not Sat, this is the material energy. This table is not conscious. It is not perceiving reality, but it is existing, so it has an element of Sat, but it is temporary, so we call it Asat. The material world is the reverse of the spiritual. The material world is Asat, whereas we are Sat, we are eternal. Asat means temporary. The material world has no knowledge inherently. It is unconscious, whereas the soul is chit. The soul has no sense of bliss, right and wrong, no morality, no aims. But we are assessing reality. I like this, I don't like that. This is right, I agree with that, I don't agree with that. And we have the personality that's doing that assessing. We are assessing. That is us. We are Satchitananda. So the living entity, and that is Krishna, numinous, the nominal, the Supreme Lord, the source of everything. He has created us by transforming the Chit Shakti into innumerable jivas, all with an independent sense of will. And therefore, I quote that verse many times, that in the Vishnu Shakti Paro Veda, that the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Numinous, the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Param Tattva, his energies can be divided into three: the Chit Shakti and the Achit Shakti and the Jiva Shakti, who can go between the two, the Tatastha Shakti. So when we consider the numinous, and when we are linked with the numinous, then our real knowledge is available to us, because we are the dependent part and parcel. We're not the independent Param Tattva. We are Tattva, we are spiritual, we are Satchidananda, but Matak Parataram Nanyad, we are dependent on the Supreme Lord. So if we enjoy material life, we forget spiritual. And if we enjoy spiritual life, we forget the material. We are in this conditioned way of life. So when the solution of the yogi is to fix the consciousness on the numinous. This is the important point. Yes, Vasudeva Savamiti. All this energy is divine energy. It is coming from Krishna, Devi Pakriti. But the yogi who wants to go from bewildered state to uncovering, as Krishna says here, their real knowledge, he knows that I'm not going to meditate on the cricket match or the latest politics or the this or the that of the material phenomena. I'm going to meditate on the numinous. Yes, and look, yes, I think at the end of this chapter, Krishna gives that instruction. Yes, this is how Krishna now, before Krishna told Arjuna, you should be Atmarati, attached to the soul. You should be Atmaram, situated in the Ram, in your spiritual nature. But now Krishna goes a step further and he says, okay, now Arjuna, I'm going to tell you in this chapter, nice Karma Yoga, where you can be in yoga without material reference, without material result. So I want you to fix on the numinous, on the absolute. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eye and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspended the inward and outward breaths within the nostril, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist, aiming at liberation, becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. The last verse, number 29, a person in full consciousness of me, not my energy, full consciousness of me, the Purusha, the numinous, whose consciousness is fixed on me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerity, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, right? Bhuktaram Yogitaram, and well-wishing of living entity attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So we're in this miserable material condition with this material body getting old, getting disease, and so on and so forth, without proper understanding of the situation. How to get peace? We have to learn to fix our consciousness on the numinous. So you're all yogis, experienced devotees, but we should always remember this simple fact that yes, like we chant Gayatri 3 times a day. So what do? We don't just rattle off the mantra. No, we do this. We withdraw the senses, we become situated in the self, and then we chant mantra as bhajan to the numinous. We have to perform our sadhana with knowledge, with the knowledge of how to practice properly. And that is very important. We shouldn't stay on this lower level with it where we think, well, I'll just work for Krishna and everything will happen automatically. Yes, it will happen automatically over maybe 1,000 lifetimes. No, you want to go back home, one to Godhead. You want to uncover the real knowledge. What is the real knowledge of the self? It's mentioned here, right? Let's just revise that. However, bewildered because their ignorance covers their real knowledge. So, what is that real knowledge? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem. Saddha Kabbanai. Shravanadi Sudachitte Karide Udai. Now, Krishna, in the Gita, he talks about bhakti and devotion, but Lord Chaitanya and the 6 Goswamis, they have completely opened this understanding that we don't want just real knowledge. What we want is the absolute perfection of knowledge, which is Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhaka Banai Shravanadi Sudachitte Karide Udai. That is our real knowledge. How Shravanadi? By Shravanam Kirtanam. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam. By Navavida Bhakti, performed in knowledge regularly, accompanied by sadhāca, good behavior, then you will blossom into real knowledge. And you don't have to go somewhere else, ultimately, because that is your constitutional nature. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhaka Bana. It's externally, but it's asleep. It has to be awoken. We're asleep to our true transcendental nature. We're asleep to Krishna Prem. We're asleep to ecstatic love of God. We're asleep to all the ecstasy, to the Supreme Lord. What are we awake to? We're awake to the cricket games, the politics, the hot and cold, the friends and enemies of this material world. This is our preoccupation, but this is our nescience. This is our avidya that is covering our ecstasy. Try to understand, this material world is covering our ecstasy. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem. So Lord Chaitanya has come with Nityananda Panchatattva and the Sadhu Sangha to give us freedom. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we should very scientifically and carefully understand this knowledge. That yes, the energy of Krishna that I'm situated in now, the material energy, is distracting me from the Supreme Purusha. The Supreme Purusha and his ecstatic Chit Shakti. Now just consider this point. Right? I was studying Brahma Samhita many times, of course, but it explains there, Shiram Yatada Divikari Visesha Yogat That's Lord Brahma, but then there's another one. Santak said that the spiritual world is composed of the Chit Shakti. This material world is composed of the what? Achit Shakti, the unconscious energy. Like I said, this is unconscious, it's not conscious. It doesn't know if I'm tapping hard or tapping soft. It is unconscious. Now the spiritual energy is conscious, Chit Shakti. But what does that mean? Try to understand this point. It is the conscious energy, but whose consciousness? This material energy is composed of the Jada Shakti, right? The Pradhan interacting with the time factor and the three modes of material nature. It has created this dull Jada energy. Jad Bharat, he was dull to the material world, but he was thinking of the numinous. So the numinous in the spiritual world, like I was saying earlier, you can calculate atoms and molecules and physics and gravity and all that. But the spiritual world is not constructed out of this energy. It is constructed out of something else. It is constructed out of the consciousness of the Supreme Lord. Now just think about that. That's why it is the unlimited world. The spiritual world, it says in the Brahma Samhita that all the entities of the spiritual world, they're all enjoyable. There is river there, there is the groves of Vrindavan, the moon is there, Kartik is there, the peacocks are there, the spiritual forms of all the devotees, the Supreme Lord, Radharani, the Jamuna is flowing beautifully, the sun, the moon. But it's not composed of this energy, it is composed of the consciousness of the Supreme Lord. Now just contemplate that for at least 1 week until next Friday. Just contemplate that the spiritual energy, material energy, they're different. This is the unconscious energy. But the spiritual world, Krishna is conscious of everything, and out of his consciousness, his Chit Shakti, he has constructed the spiritual world. It is made from his consciousness. Now we think, a bewildered state, Prabhupada mentions it, we think, sometimes people, they used to take LSD, I don't know, they don't usually live long, but they take LSD and they go to the top of a building and they think, I'm God. If I think I can fly, I can fly. Right? Well, that element is because whatever Krishna thinks, his Ichcha Shakti, it's called, described in Shakti, whatever his Ichcha, desiring Shastra, Shakti, then his Kriya Shakti follows. That means that whatever Krishna imagines should be, should happen, that will be. There's no restriction. So therefore it is said, Mukham karochi vachalam pangam laite girim yad kripatamam vande Shri Guru Didadaranam. Anything can happen if Krishna desires it to be so. The whole spiritual world, the whole material creation, the interaction between the two, the living entity, we cannot make a mathematical formula. In a superficial way, we can make a mathematical formula to describe water, hydrogen and oxygen molecules, and we can take apart the small nuclear force and the heavy nuclear force, but we can never write a formula for that spiritual creation. It is, what is the first word? Achintya, right? When we define the absolute truth, one way is achintya beda bed, that the Supreme Lord He has created the groves of Vrindavan, Haridam, all the lokas of all the avatars, the devotees. He has expanded himself as the gopis, as the shaktis, as the manjaris, the swarup shakti. This is all the expression of his consciousness. The consciousness is the shakti. Krishna is the purusha, and his expanded consciousness is the creation. And we are told in the Shastra wonderful things, that the Supreme Lord, there's no end to his expansion of consciousness and energy. He's present everywhere. And so we are within that. We are within that. And how are we reacting? We are reacting according to our level of understanding and our desire. So Krishna is making the point. And he says that right at the beginning of this verse. It's very interesting. He makes it clear to Arjuna. Just 1 minute. Nādatte kasyacit. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. What does that mean? That means, nādatte, the Sanskrit, he doesn't accept. That means he's not responsible. Prabhupada explained it nicely in the Purport, if you remember. He facilitates. I want to rob the bank. So then Krishna gives intelligence how to rob the bank. But according to your karma, you may be captured after robbing the bank. I want to do something bad. Krishna gives the intelligence. It's there, right? The Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. You want to do this? You want to become a tiger? You want to live like a pig? You want to be a hang glider and then become an eagle in your next life? Or you want to be a surfer or a diver? You can also do that. I will facilitate everything. I will do everything for you. I am your servant. We say, yes, Ishvara Sarva Bhutarnam, right, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, but Krishna's power is manifest in his service, and therefore we are servants. And he doesn't accept, he's not responsible. But the ignorant living entity sometimes, he is, you see, everyone is under the Supreme Lord. Just like everyone in India is under the government, you can say. But some are in Tihar jail, and some are free people, wandering here and there, going for a swim in the Jamuna. Some are people in jailhouse, and some are free citizens. Some people are in the material world, and some are in the spiritual world. Some are in the Brahma Jyoti. All according to their desire, choice, Krishna has facilitated. So he is not responsible, that's what he's saying. He has facilitated. You want to go to spiritual world? Just desire it. Through sadhu sangha, pick up the idea. Through reading Krishna book. Through being sadhācha, give up sinful activity. Because if you're papi, you can't desire properly. You're overwhelmed by sinful reaction. So Krishna is explaining here, yes, the criminal in the jail, he may say, the government has put me in this jail. They're responsible for my suffering. Is that correct? No. They put you in the jail. But why? Because you robbed the bank. Your action gave the reaction that you're undergoing now. The government has not acted whimsically. Those free citizens are roaming here and there in the wonderful land, enjoying life freely, because they are living in harmony with the laws of the land. So this is it. Then Krishna explains, the living entity, his real knowledge, his real freedom, his Krishna prem is covered by this rebelliousness. Why am I in the jail? Now the criminal says, the government, I read, the purpose of government is to help the people have a happy life. But I'm in the jail. I'm suffering. Huh? Therefore there is no government. Right? Sometimes atheists say like that, isn't it not? They say, oh, there is no God, or else we wouldn't be suffering. No, the fact that you are suffering and you don't want to shows that you're subordinate, and you should maybe consider that you're subordinate to a power greater than yourself. What does the Mayavadi do? The Mayavadi is in the jail, and his reaction is what? I'm in the jail, but it's all illusion. Right? It's my Leela. I just have to imagine I'm free, and I'll be free. It happened to Krishna in Mathura. The chowkidars, they fell asleep, and Vasudeva took Krishna out to Vrindavan. So I will be the same once I overcome this illusion. So that's the Mayavadis. Oh, it's all illusion. And then the voidist, what is their reaction to being in the prison? Their reaction is, I will just starve myself to death. I will just non-exist, and then I'll be no longer in the prison. They have different various ideas. I'll become Om Mani Padme Hum. I will lose all personality. I'll lose my sense of suffering, and I'll merge into the nothingness. So, that is not the solution either. You can be a voidist or a Mayavadi in the prison. If you want to get out of the prison, what do? You get time off for good behavior. Right? So Krishna, he's saying here to Arjuna, he's developing all the ideas of karma that have come earlier, and karma yoga, nice karma yoga, and now he's going to go into, okay, now how to get rid of all these illusory ideas. You just must consider that you are a subordinate living entity, and you must enlist the help of the Supreme Lord. How? Didami buddhi yogam tam yena mam muhyanti. How? Bhajitam pritipurvakam. To those that worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come. This is my promise. And how do they, how they begin this devotional bhajan? Itimat aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. Krishna says, I am the source of the material, I am source of the spiritual. And those that understand this, itimat bhajantimam, who know this nicely, perfectly, well, they've heard from spiritual teacher, then they automatically perform my bhajan. Their ignorance is gone, because they are seeing everything, material and spiritual, in relationship to Purusha. Ignorance means not to see things in relationship to Purusha, but to see it isolated. We see the material energy separated. We see it, there's no connection to God. God is irrelevant. Maybe he's an idea, an old story. But there is matter, and that's all we have, and that's all we have to deal with. And we don't see Vasudeva Savamiti, like in the Bhagavatam, right? Vasudeva paravede, Vasudeva param jñānam, Vasudeva param tapa, right? That fantastic sloka. So knowledge means, if you want to dispel avidya, you train, you go to Shastra, you go to spiritual teacher, and you find out how everything is related to Krishna, the noumenal. Everything is the phenomenal. And you do the bhajan of the phenomenal by taking the phenomenal activities, flower, fruit, water, and you offer it to Krishna with pretty purvakam. And then Krishna will take you back to Godhead, as simple as that. Simple as that. Sometimes people get very mental. Oh, I've got to get this tincture, I've got to do this, No. Only thing you have to do is desire. I want to go to the spiritual world. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, we'll finish on that point. Thank you all very much. 5 minutes before time. So, any question? Yes? Say a little louder, big room.
If Krishna, who is Ichha-shakti, can attain everything, can the living entity in the spiritual world also do the same?
This is a very good question. I know the answer to this perfectly. This question is in the Vedanta Sutra. Yes, the living entity is Anu, as Prabhupada says, he is Paramanu. So that means he's unlimited. But we are tiny fragmental portion. So the question is asked in the Vedanta Sutra, the Baladev Vidyabhushan commentary, the question is asked in the Moksha Kanda. There's 4 khandas, corners in the Vedanta Sutra. Moksha Kanda describes the condition of liberation, the spiritual world. So in there, the question is asked, because Vedanta Sutra is dialectic. A question is asked, and then an answer is given, and that leads to, it's called dialectics, question and answer going to a conclusion. So the question is asked, the living entity is Paramanu, he's tiny. How does he relate to the Supreme Lord? So Baladev explains in his purport that the living entity, when he is liberated, he becomes empowered by the Supreme Lord to the extent whereby he is practically equivalent to the Supreme Lord in potency. That is the statement in Shastra. I read that and I was amazed. Yes, the living entity liberated to relate to the Supreme Lord is empowered. Vibhu, vibhuti-mat sattvam. He's given such vibhuti, such empowerment, so that he speaks to Krishna on the same level. But Baladev explains something very fascinating, that however, the Shakti by which the creation is manifest, all the lokas, material or spiritual, the Brahman, all the principles that maintain and develop the creation, it is explained by Baladev that Shakti he doesn't give to the living entity. We have that to a certain extent in liberated condition, yogic condition, that you can create one. I think yogis can, some mention, they can create different forms, they can do this and that, but they cannot make an alternative creation to the one that Krishna has manifest. Do you understand the point? So, but all the other Shaktis of intelligence, liberation, knowledge, ecstasy, wit, creativity, they're all imbued, they are all manifest, given to the liberated living entity, so that, especially in Golok, the living entities relate to Krishna practically on the equivalent level. And therefore the cowherd boys, "Hey Balaram, you are cheating when you're wrestling." Or the gopis, they chastise Krishna. "Why are you speaking like that? you don't talk like that. You treat Radharani nicely, or else I'll tell Lalita Shaki. So they are relating to Krishna on an equivalent level with the same Shakti. Do you see the point? This is the liberality of Krishna. This is the spiritual world. The spiritual world, everyone is practically the same power as the Supreme Lord. And they all relate to Krishna in this empowered fashion. And Krishna loves it. He loves to see all the spiritual souls developing their own personality and activities and interacting with him. And who wants to make another creation anyway? Because the creation Krishna has made is pretty amazing. Even the material creation. But just contemplate this for 1 week or longer if you like. The spiritual creation, it is formed out of the consciousness of the Supreme Lord. The substance of the rivers, the lotus, the sunlight, the moonlight, in the spiritual world is composed of Krishna's consciousness. Therefore, Prabhupada said perfectly, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. How do we relate to Krishna? Through our consciousness. In the conscious world, the unlimited world, where everyone relates in their swarup, their own form, their own nature, in an unlimited lila. So that is Kartik. That is Kartik meditation, right? This is Kartik. At the end is the Ras Purnim. There is the Damodar Leela. So Kartik is especially for meditating on the unlimited Leela of the Supreme Lord. And that is the real knowledge. Once we understand, then our real knowledge reveals everything. Just like it is said, right? Yashadeva parabhaktir, yashyate parabhakti yashyate kahita yata prakashante mahatmana. If you have full realization of the Supreme Lord, then everything is revealed. So we can't understand that from the material because we're confused. What should I do? He said that, he did that, this. We should rise above these modes. And this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna at the end of this chapter. Withdraw from the external agitation of the phenomenal world and meditate upon the Supreme Lord. Through Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam. And what is especially empowered in Kali Yuga? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So 3 things, Brahma Samhita, right at the end. Pramana, understand Shastra from spiritual teacher. 2, Sadachar, try to develop good personality. Don't be nasty, rumamanga, cheeky, vengeful, whatever. Try to have sadachar, good behavior. That's number 2. And then Krishna tells Brahma, nirantaram, be steady, be steady. 3 things. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So you can look forward to it, Ramchandra Das, that when you eventually become Vastu Siddhi, situated in the spiritual world, you will talk to Krishna. And you can say a good word about me. You can say, look, he's still down there, that fool. Bring him back quickly. No. All right, thank you all very much for your inspiring association. Kartik Mas Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Sadhu Sangha Ki Jai.